the Nobel Peace Prize, one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious prize in the world for any institution that has to assure peace. Such a prize the European Union has won in 2012 for its peaceful endeavors. But the question that the proposition team wants to answer today is, did they really deserve it? Is the European Union the agent that should have received this prize? Is it really the agent that in 2012 has done the most peace efforts and has done its best to maintain the peace? The proposition team is here today to say loud and clearly that no, it is not. And we are going to prove that in 4 arguments. But before actually going into those 4 constructive points, I would firstly want to clarify some things regarding the Nobel Prize and secondly of our burden. Now, the simple fact that we are debating today clearly tells us that there is something going wrong about the European Union. We believe today that when we're talking about the most prestigious prize regarding peace in the world, which is the Nobel Prize, that it should be a clear cut. There should be no controversy around it, and we think that you should be worthy 100%, that there should be no criticism towards you if you want to receive that respective goal. Furthermore, we're saying today that we're cutting no slack for the European Union whatsoever. We think today that considering that we have a significant numbers of other candidates that could have got it, we're not willing to cut any slack. Some of them have a clean record, and if at the end of the day any of our arguments remain, then we have won this debate, as we have proven that they did not deserve it, and somebody else could have gotten it. Now, talking about what do you have to do and who decides if you were good enough to get a Nobel Prize for peace. Now, the criteria for that is quote unquote. To do is for the person that has done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations, for the abolition or reduction of standing armies, and for holding and promotion of peace congress. We believe today that the European Union has not accomplished this criteria. Furthermore, we do not want to hear anything regarding, well, yes, that was not the European Union, those were the people from the European Union. We think that that point does not stand, because in the moment that you get into the European Union, you automatically become a representative of the European Union. Therefore, your actions are in the name of the European Union. Now, who are the people deciding who gets the Peace Prize for the Nobel? So it's firstly the Institute Director of the Nobel Institute, secondly the Research Director, and a small number of Norwegian academics with expertise on the respective fields. Now, I'll go into my first constructive point, which is going to be peace. Second one is going to be militarization. Third one is going to be economical policies creating social destruction, and fourth will be fraternity and xenophobia. Now, going on to the first point, it is more clear than it can get that when you receive a peace prize, and not any type of peace prize, but the most prestigious one in the world, you should be an agent of peace. And by default, by the own admission of the name Peace Prize, you should have peace, and you should be an agent of peace promoting peace. And our question is the European Union that? Well, no, we think today that the European Union is clearly not an agent of peace, and we think that throughout the history of the European Union has undergone several wars, and it was a belligerent agent, and it had involved itself in multiple wars. You do not believe us? Well, I could just name drop some names like Afghanistan, Iraq, or Kuwait, for example, and the list can go on. All wars in which countries from the European Union, and more importantly, representatives of the European Union, have been involved. Furthermore, we see today that countries are not stopping and are still open to engaging in unpeaceful and war activities. For example, the President of France declared that he is ready to strike Syria. And for example, we see countries such as the United Kingdom raising their funds year after year after year for military expenses. So from this point of view, we think that regarding peace, no, the European Union is not a peaceful agent. Moving on to the second point, militarization, which is another criteria for the abolition and reduction of standing armies and standing armies. No, so from this point of view, we are saying today that the European Union and the representatives of the European Union are responsible for 1/3 of arms export globally. From this point of view, we think that militarization that is going on in the European Union and is caused by the European Union is clearly not something worth of a peace agent. And we think that from this point of view, this is not promoting peace, this is promoting war. Furthermore, we have 5 different countries in the European Union having having nuclear weapons. Furthermore, we see that they have no policy regulating the trade of weapons. No, not only do they not have it, but on the contrary, in the same year that they received the Nobel Prize, they found something called the ICT Directive, which is basically a directive which is responsible of liberalizing the weapons market and liberalizing the production of it. Ergo, making the countries in the European Union more prone to create and make trade with weapons, furthermore militarizing the population of the world. Third point, economical policies creating social disruption. We think that when we're talking about economical policies, at the same time those economical policies can create war and something not worthy of a peace agent, like the Nobel Institute wants us to consider the European Union today. If we were to look, for example, at the economical policies of austerity put on Greece today, we see that what the European Union did and what it left behind is a Greek that is suffering with a suicide rate going constantly up, with crisis, with chaos, with social disruption, with and a high unemployment. We think today that civil war such as that, if you want to consider the civil war, and civil disruption and chaos, is clearly not a sign of peace. But you know what the European Union did not do in the case of Greece? Well, what happened in Greece, and is still happening today, is that they have policies of austerity in every single domain. They have people losing their jobs, but what they do not have is a policy to reduce the weapons imports that is still huge to this hour in Greece. We think today that from this point of view, an agent of war worthy of a peace prize should not do such thing. Fourth point, one of the criteria would be to do the best for fraternity between nations. And we think that today, looking at the European Union and the representatives and the countries in the space of the European Union, we see nothing else but xenophobia. We do not see in any point fraternity being promoted in any way whatsoever. What we do see is nationalistic parties in Greece, for example, in Spain, for example, or the Communist Party in Czech Republic. We see that these parties have declared a strong nationalistic view. They have a strong they have a strong xenophobic politics, and we see today that some of these extreme parties, for example the one in Hungary, are actually at power. We see that xenophobia and hate crimes are all common in the European Union, and we see that the nice and fluffy statement that we promote unity through diversity falls, because for example we have Sharia law courts, for example, in the United Kingdom, because people from the Sharia law cannot adapt to that. We think today that the diversity and the fraternity that they're talking about is not something real. We think today that what we have today is a clear desiccation. We have a clear discrimination and a huge discrepancy between Arabic people, for example, and Europeans. We see today that they fail to integrate them, and multiculturalism, as Angela Merkel said, failed in Europe. Furthermore, we see today that the external policy of the European Union regarding visas for people coming from other countries, from countries from outside of Europe, they require a visa. And it's a visa that is not easy to get. So from this point of view, we think that this fraternity is being regulated directly by this policy, and this is not something that an agent of fraternity and peace should do. For all of these reasons, we have proven to you that clearly the European Union should have not been the one to get the Peace Prize. Thank you.